Well, I think we have a number of major challenges. In fact, you have 2 billion people suffering from vitamin mineral deficiencies. You have about 1 billion people who are hungry. And, with the financial crisis and the food crisis before that, what you find is the figures are getting worse. You have an additional 100 million people pushed into poverty. You have, almost 250 million children now at risk of malnutrition that weren't before. I think the World Bank is predicting another 400,000 children dying each year if we don't see some turnaround. So you have a horrific situation which very few people know about.
And this is where GAIN comes in. GAIN was established in 2002. What is your strategy and your top priority?
And people have been working on malnutrition for 30, 40 years, but from the statistics that we're seeing now, it's not working. So GAIN was created as a new initiative to bring some innovation, try and bring some alignment, to also take the issue of malnutrition out of the public domain. I think there was a strong realization that governments are critical, but a lot of the food and food products are produced and distributed by the private sector. So we need to think outside the existing paradigms to bring new partners together. So GAIN was created with a view to, let's not just do a whole bunch of small pilot programs that may reach 10, 20,000 people. We have to reach 2 billion people if we're going to make a difference here. So we need large-scale solutions. So you'll see our programs are to take things to scale. And our performance target organizationally was to put programs on the ground that at scale will reach 1 billion people over the next 5 to 10 years.
So you are looking then at some of the most populated countries, literally from China to Bangladesh, India, and into Africa. What are the key challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we are targeting particularly countries in Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. That's where you have 80% of the burden of malnutrition. In many countries, we don't have products available on the market that can reach poor people. What we find is that we have good products that high nutritional value that can reach the rich, but for the majority of the population, there's nothing there. And many companies have not produced those products because they can make more money off the rich. So how do you incentivize the private sector to do this? Government can play a key role in regulation. In our fortification programs, which was really about taking staple foods like wheat or maize or vegetable oil or cooking oil that everybody eats and adding micronutrients to it, those projects, don't cost very much. For pennies, they can make they can have a major impact. But what you see is that it's hard to get governments and the private sector to come together to actually do these programs. So there is a real need to play a convening role that brings together all the stakeholders around a problem like fortification. You find that if you take away food aid or food assistance programs, that the amount of resources going into nutrition is for maybe $300 to $400 million a year. Malnutrition is responsible for about the same disease burden as HIV/AIDS, which it receives $3 to $4 billion a year. Now that's a good investment in HIV/AIDS, but it really shows us a dramatic underinvestment in malnutrition. So we need donors to come to the table and starting to prioritize that.
Establish for me the link between poverty, nutrition, and economic development.
Well, I think what you see is that people who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid, who don't have access to good food and adequate nutrition, tend to perform poorly in later life in terms of either being a burden to the health system or in terms of not being as productive as those who did. And unfortunately, in many parts of the world, governments aren't able, even if they do have the awareness, they're not able to reach a large part of their own populations. And I think that's where you need the international community to be stepping in. The other issue is, and this is a bit of a complicated issue, is that a lot of people think that malnutrition will simply get addressed through economic development. And the fact is that it isn't an automatic thing in any stretch. As economic growth has been going up in India, malnutrition has been going up at the same pace. You know, so it isn't, so economic growth is not the only determinant of malnutrition. It really depends on a high level of awareness of government, public, private sector, civil society coming together and having very specific interventions that will address malnutrition.